Hello everybody. Today I'd like to talk about the truth. Handheld gaming is dead as we know it, in America at least. Now why is this the case? Well, let's find out by playing around with both of these consoles. The first thing is the Nintendo 3DS. The build quality is far from the best on this thing. At least it folds up though, giving you the illusion of a console that's more well protected despite the design flaws such as the circle pad and the poor battery life. And this thing gets terrible battery life. It's backwards compatible with DS games, but many DS games weren't really memorable. And it does have kind of flimsy bumpers, triggers, or whatever you want to call these. I'm going to call them triggers. It's got kind of flimsy shoulder buttons or triggers, and it also has a 3D screen, which was added because when this came out, 3D was the gimmick. It's also slow, and it takes a while to do anything. As for performance, well, the system does have some games such as Resident Evil Revelations, Metal Gear Solid 3, which is inferior to the Vita version. It also has other games such as, well, it has Shin Megami Tensei 4 and a few other Japanese games, and that's about it. But this system is pretty damn anti-consumer. It has DRM even on demos, as you can only launch a demo so many times. So if you want to try it over and over again, tough. You're out of luck. At least the console does accept normal SD cards, though, something I'll get into in a minute when I talk about the Vita. But the console itself is pretty weak. I mean, look at this. As you can see, the frame rate of this is horrible, especially when I turn on 3D. Yeah, this is a demo, but I'm just waiting for this. Look at these cutscenes. I mean, there are videos on YouTube that just show this.
Snake, try to remember some of the basics of CQC.
Look, I just turned off 3D and the frame rate is terrible. Like, the 3DS isn't really a powerful system. Now, I'm going to get into power in a second when I talk about the other reason these things are dying, but look at this. This thing cost $250 and it's got worse graphics than an iPhone. Now, think about that for a second. You're paying $250 for a handheld console, and it's got graphics worse or on the level of a cell phone. Now think about it. When you buy a cell phone, you can do a lot more. You can run apps, you can make calls, you can do all that stuff. And keep in mind, this thing also gets only about 3 to 4 hours battery life. But now it's time for me to talk about the competitor this thing is up against, the Vita. Now, the first thing is, another thing I thought I'd mention about the 3DS is that a lot of times you won't be able to find a game in store, and you'll have to use digital distribution. While you can use normal SD cards, you cannot, however, transfer your games to another console, especially if it's lost or stolen. Then you have to call up Nintendo, give them your serial number, give them a ton of stuff. I've heard reports that you might even need a police report if your console's stolen. However, I called up Nintendo and they said I didn't need one. That might have changed, but I think you can take that as you will, how you're being treated like a criminal. Speaking of being treated like a criminal, the Vita is a lot better than the 3DS. It offers nicer hardware, a lot of games. Well, I mean a lot as in, you know. However, the Vita does have plenty of issues, however. And I'll get into these first. The first issue is, I know I'm going to have to power the console down, so I'm just going to turn the console off. And I'm going to turn the volume up after I turn the console on. Well, actually, never mind. Forget it. Let me just show you now, since I have to have the console off before I do this. Look at this thing. A PlayStation Vita memory card. These things cost an arm and a leg. I went to Target. They were $30 for that little 8 gig card there. And many games require an 8 gig. Sometimes even a 16 gig. Like Phantasy Star Online 2 requires a 16 gig card. So think about that for a second. You've got games that require 8 16 gig cards, and they cost an arm and a leg, with the 32 gig card costing a bunch too. And there's actually a Japan only 64 gig card, and I went to my GameStop and they only had, like, I think, they didn't even have an 8 gig card. They only had used 4 gig cards because people were trading them in because the initial Vita bundles had them. So the only thing good, well, the console does have good hardware and some good games. As I said, some. I'm going to get into the game library next, but as you can see, console's a lot better than the 3DS. It's a lot faster too. It doesn't take a long time to open. Yeah, it's a little slow first time you turn it on, but like after you have it in standby mode, it gets much faster. Unlike the 3DS, which takes a while to even get out of standby mode. So it's logging into PlayStation Network, and as you'll be able to see in a second, there are plenty of games. The only problem is, to buy these games, you need a big memory card. So, like, now that PlayStation Store is loaded, because I'm up in my room, and I'm going to go to, Featured. So there's a summer sale. And the thing with these games is, though, even though they're on sale, you need a big enough memory card. So even if you want to buy these indie games or Japanese games not many people have heard of, you need, how much space is in here? Oh, it doesn't even say for a second. It just says 2 megabytes minimum. Jeez. But, oh yeah, it says 2 gig now. It took me a while to see that. I wasn't looking. I haven't used PlayStation Network in a while. I forgot it has it in the title. I was looking in the description, because with many stores it's in the description. But, like I said, the games are big. They're gigs and gigs, and you'll instantly fill up these small memory cards and be forced to purchase more. The system does not take normal SD cards. In the PlayStation TV, the modified PlayStation Vita spinoff, which has a whitelisted game list, will not work with SD cards either. And another thing I'll notice, this system's also pretty damn anti-consumer too, not just with the memory cards, but let me show you. This is Phantasy Star Online 2. Now, as you can see, it's a PSP game, but it's working fine on here. So, what is the point of me showing you this random game running on a PlayStation Vita? Because I'm going to show you why in a second. And it's not pretty either. Now, Sony, one day, I think in April, they accidentally removed the whitelist for PlayStation Network. So as you can see, I can play Phantasy Star Portable 2 here, but if I go to, like, let's just say the store. Now, I purchased this game back when it was on PlayStation Network. Let me show you. PlayStation Network's taking a while to load today. That's what PlayStation Network does a lot. Just says, please wait. Still not as bad as Nintendo, though. Download list. As you can clearly see, it says here, cannot download using a PS Vita system. And let me just scroll the way down, because this is one of my first PlayStation Network purchases. Phantasy Star Portable 2 cannot be downloaded with a Vita. Cannot be downloaded with a Vita. Cannot be downloaded with a Vita. And looky here, I'm playing it just fine. Why is that? True greed. Apparently Sony felt the need to tell you that you cannot download games you legally own, you legally purchase on your Vita, despite the fact that it's 100% technically possible. What does this say about Sony? They're just as bad as the other two. But here's the main thing I'm pointing out with these. Now, the game library. Now, why am I making a big deal about backwards compatibility? Because both of these don't have too many good games. The Vita is literally a Japanese gaming machine. All it has are Japanese games. At least you can import them though, because the system is 100% region free. It's not region locked in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. You can even log into it with a Japanese PlayStation Network account or an American PlayStation Network account. Like, you can only have one account per console, but you can do that and you can still get your games. So you could like buy Phantasy Star Online too and play that. And you can do that easily. But the problem is, like I said, the system has the stupid memory cards and the DRM with the memory cards and the whitelist, while the 3DS has DRM. And both of these, the 3DS also only really has Japanese games. If all you want to play is Japanese games, you can buy either one, except remember the 3DS is region locked, while the Vita is not region locked in any way, shape, or form. So keep in mind, both of these systems are basically not really the most consumer friendly, and they don't have too many games either. I mean, unless you want to play kids games, because the majority of 3DS owners are kids, I mean, or people who act like kids. This is America, though. I'm not talking Japan or other places, but I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case in Japan. Because, like, I went to that museum, like I said, there were all these kids using their 3DSs to take pictures. The Vita, on the other hand, it's not selling too well because it's trying to target more hardcore gamers. I mean, even Sony early on, they marketed the thing initially with console gaming on the go.
Now you can take on your friends in intense online matches that go where you do. The Call of Duty Black Ops Declassified Bundle.
PlayStation Vita, console quality on the go.
And the 3DS, on the other hand, it doesn't have too many games. So here's the thing with this, and both of these. These consoles just aren't too good buys. But it gets worse. You want to know what's really killing these things? Cell phones. And I'll tell you why in the end. So right here you've got the 3DS, which despite having some games like Resident Evil Revelations, which look decent, you've also got games like Pokemon X and Y, which look like total crap, and that's many 3DS games. The Vita, a lot more powerful, but it's got frame rate issues, especially trying to run console games. And then you've got a third platform that's taking them down. The PC of handheld gaming. Cell phones. Running Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. Cell phones, they've already leapfrogged the 3DS in power a long time ago. They've leapfrogged the PlayStation Portable in power. They can even emulate PlayStation Portable games. And you know what? They've already gotten to the point where there's a guy out there who ported to the new Tegra. He got like a development board because you can buy them. He bought one, ported Dolphin, the well-known GameCube emulator, to Android. Think about it. Android running GameCube games. That should tell you enough about what these two are up against. And did I mention the games cost a lot more? $20 on sale is too much for an Apple or Android user. Seriously, think about it. 99-cent in free games versus $20 to $30 games. And if you regret it, there's no refunds. Especially if you buy digitally. That's all I have to say. It doesn't matter if the cell phones don't have these controls. Oh wait, there actually are Android game controllers I've seen for sale at stores. That's all I really have to say on this. Android is already creeping up on these two things. And as these two consoles continue to lack major Western games, as Western third parties have abandoned both systems, they're going to get more and more relevant, especially in America. Japan too, as cell phones catch on. There already are cell phone games in Japan catching on. Just look at games such as Puzzle and Dragon, and I've seen various other ones catch on too. I mean, think about it. There are games that are catching on. And these two things, when they lack games, when they charge $30 to $40 for Angry Birds, they're going to die. That is all. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.